What's up, everybody? Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile. I'm Mike Renner, joined as always by Kyle Long. And today we're going through, on Tuesday's show, we went through uh, playoff contenders, their Achilles heels. Now we're going to go through a bunch of playoff teams. We're going to make some like small predictions. We're going to say teams that we think haven't been to this level yet. We're going to do Super Bowl. We're going to do deep playoff runs. We're going to do playoffs, like teams that haven't been there in recent years. Who's going to do it? Why they will, but also maybe why they won't. And so we'll start high. We'll start with teams who have not been to the Super Bowl of late, teams who have been on the precipice of the Super Bowl of late, but could get over the hump this year. Why they will make it and why they won't make it. So let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. Probably no better place to start in all of football, given that one, they have this insane roster, but two, that they've had this insane roster for like half a decade now. And it hasn't led to anything more than one AFC championship game, zero Super Bowl appearances. So, Kyle, why will this year be different, or why won't this year be different?
Well, I think this year will be different because the offense gets another year with their two superstars, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. No sign of slowing down from big Derrick Henry. And obviously, Lamar Jackson is still in MVP form. I'll say this about the Ravens. They got better defensively and they're more experienced. And there is a tremendous amount of value in a unit playing together and having time on task with one another. Baltimore Ravens have just that. Obviously, fell just millimeters short last year in the front pylon corner of the end zone. This team, year in, year out, is poised and ready to make a playoff run, Super Bowl run. This year feels like it is the year, Mike.
It really does. The more I look at it, now obviously injuries happen. It's a long season, 17 games, whatever. But just looking at this defense, because this was 2 years ago, 2023, they were the one seed. That was the year they got to the AFC Championship game, right? Number one defense in the NFL. Obviously, lost Mike McDonald, early season struggles. But week 11 on, they were once again the best defense in the NFL and bring back pretty much everyone from that. Now, the one loss, Darius Washington at safety, who tore his Achilles. Well, you replaced him with first rounder Malachi Starks, which could even be an upgrade for you. And then you added your other loss, Brandon Stevens at corner, probably the weakest link in the secondary a season ago. You added Jair Alexander to be that guy this season, who, if healthy, when healthy, a massive upgrade. Could be their best cornerback this season. So just going, unit for unit on this roster, really no holes to speak of. The one hole, and I'm surprised you haven't brought this up, and this could be the why won't they? It's their guard position. That has to be the weakest spot on their roster. Obviously, they get around it with Derrick Henry in the running game, doesn't really matter. But I think in pass protection, if they have to fall behind and play some catch up, that could be an issue, especially when it's like it's Ed Oliver you're going through. It's Chris Jones you're going through.
Yeah.
If there's a why won't they, I think is the guard position it, Kyle?
Well, we saw this last year from the guard position, and they had guys who just seemingly looked lost, particularly on the right side of that offensive line. As the season went on, these guys got their feet wet. They got more comfortable. The pace and speed of the game picks up. But one thing you can't replace is experience. And I think what they struggled with last year in pass protection that I saw was the communication and passing off of line stunts and games. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were looking at. Obviously, it's nice to be able to win every one-on-one, every opportunity you have in man pass protection. But a lot of these things that they're getting thrown at them are games. And if you don't have experience next to the guy that you're playing with, you're going to be a fish out of water. They have that experience now with Rosengard there at the tackle position. They look solid. Lost some weight there. Falele lost some weight this offseason. I'm looking forward to seeing how they pass off games this year. That's a huge part of getting home on Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, those two guards, Andrew Voorhees on the left side, Daniel Falele on the right side. But they brought in Joseph Noteboom from Los Angeles. The Rams could potentially take one of those spots over should we see injuries, should we see poor play. Also drafted Emory Jones, the LSU offensive tackle, in the third round. If you watched him, most evaluators said this guy is probably going to be a guard at the next level. So they have some insurance policy there, but it's definitely a weak link. But if like that's your weakest link in your roster, it's probably a pretty damn good roster. So this Ravens team, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Why will they do this? Why will they make Super Bowl this year? No holes. That's it. There's no excuse for the Baltimore Ravens this season. The other team, we're going to flip. We're going to do one AFC, one NFC for all of these. And so we're going to do the Detroit Lions here. Why will this year, when they've been on kind of, like I said, NFC Championship game a couple years ago. Obviously, the disappointing loss as the 1 seed last year. Why will this year be different for Detroit?
Oh, I'll say this. The reason that Detroit should have optimism and confidence, both fans, players, and members of the Detroit Lions football staff, is that Brad Holmes has constructed a real juggernaut. And we've seen this team, albeit decimated by injury, in meaningful football games, go out there and compete, play tough. Look, we all love watching the Detroit Lions. I love watching this offense. With or without Ben Johnson, they're still going to have that identity of, oh, fourth and, third and, we're going for it. You know where the ball's going. Good luck stopping us. They got the right guys on the field at the right positions. Look, it's going to be tough to overcome the coordinator departures, but at the end of the day, there's still Johnnies and Joes out there playing football. Let's just hope that those Johnnies and Joes, guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil, can return to form that we got used to seeing prior to their injury.
Yeah, I think the defensive returns are why you feel the most excited about this team. Whether it's McNeil coming back, Hutch coming back, the fact that they'll be healthy or should be healthy in the secondary, and you have guys who were rookies last year who maybe look like a fish out of water, should be year two, at least not that, at least not making those rookie mistakes consistently. But I picked these two teams specifically for you, Kyle. I want you to know that because this has a brand new interior offensive line, this Detroit Lions team. I think that hasn't been talked about quite enough, that this offensive line that was so dominant a year ago,
Yeah.
well, they lost Frank Ragnow, and now you're getting a complete reshuffle of this offensive line because of it. It looks like you're either going to get Tate Ratledge at center, Graham Glasgow at one of the guard positions, Christian Mahogany at the other guard position, or Glasgow moves back to center. He played there early on in his career. He's, the slightest built guy along this offensive line. And then Tate Ratledge moves back to guard where he played his entire Georgia career. So is this going to be a big issue for a team that was, they're a top 5 rushing offense last year, really the only top 5 rushing offense that didn't have the quarterback as a running threat? Do we see them taking a big step back because of this?
Well, I'm going to tip my cap to Frank Ragnow and point out that his archetype of center is different than the one that is so glowingly appreciated now in the National Football League. These undersized centers who can get out in space. Yeah, Ragnow could do that, but where Frank really dominated was at the point of attack in the A gap, handling your biggest, baddest. Whatever comes out from under that bridge, we're going to handle it with Frank Ragnow. I've seen it. I saw it firsthand against prime Akeem Hicks. It was, oh my God, jaw dropping. They're missing that testosterone laden, oversized guy in the middle. But I think that we're going to have an opportunity to have a guy with some pop in there. We like Tate Ratledge coming out of college. Obviously, Mahogany going to be a mainstay now on the offensive line. Look out for him to become a perennial ass kicker in the trenches for the Lions.
Yeah, I don't think this running game all of a sudden goes to bad, right? Your running back room is too good with Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, but I think they relied on it being dominant a year ago, which it was, especially down the stretch. And when it's inside zone, when it's duo, last year you had at least one elite player on every double team. There are two elite players along the offensive line, one on each of the double teams on that right side. So whether it's right guard, right tackle, whether it's right guard, center, tackle, tight end, one of those guys on that double is going to be an elite player. And that helps. That helps in terms of generating movement along the offensive line, and they generated movement better than anyone else in the NFL last year. So unfortunately, I just don't see that being the case. But this roster is still sick. Brad Holmes has done an incredible job. So why will they? There's too many talented players. I don't care who's coordinator. This is still going to be a darn good football team. And it's a team that's led by Dan Campbell at the top that has leaders on the football field too. It's got coaches on the field too that aren't just going to let this regression really crater this offense or this defense. All right, there you have it. A couple teams with Super Bowl aspirations. We're going to get to a couple teams that haven't made a deep playoff run in a while, but that we think have the potential to, and debate why will they or why won't they right after this. All right. In the A block, we did Super Bowl potential teams. Now we're going to go through teams that we think are on the precipice of making a deep playoff run that could this year, that are up and coming, that haven't in recent years. We're going to go with the Denver Broncos and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Why will they make that deep playoff run, or why won't they make that deep playoff run? Let's start with the Broncos, Kyle. What do you think about this?
Well, it starts at the line of scrimmage, and let's be real. The Broncos have a very real line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They've got guys on the interior part of the offensive and defensive lines who can win at will. You don't even have to really think about it when you draw up these plays. You know, okay, that's a winner for Zach, and that's a winner here. We got a good double team on the offensive line. Also, another year of Bo Nix just understanding what Sean Payton wants of him, how to better use himself to make this offense more efficient. We saw him use his legs at the end of the year last year, which obviously is going to open up a plethora of things early on in the season for this Broncos offense. Look, they added pieces on the defensive side of the ball as well. If these guys are healthy on the defensive side of the ball, that they just imported this talent, this Broncos team is already a top three and probably not three defense in the National Football League. You add guys like Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. If they have a clean bill of health, look out for the Broncos. And really, the only reason that I don't see them having success is because everybody else around them in their division, in that conference, they're so damn good. There's so much competition, Mike. There can only be one Highlander, as it were.
I do love that this was, by all accounts, top three defense in the NFL last year. Top three in pressure rate. They have defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain. And they could have just said, we got the defense figured out. Let's give Bo Nix a zillion weapons, right? Let's try to figure out that side of the ball. They didn't do that. 19th overall pick comes around. They shock the world. They go Jahdae Barron. They add another cornerback to what was the best pass defense in football a year ago and just say, we don't want anyone to move the football on us through the air. I love the wherewithal. I love that thought process. And then they come back around. And again, like I said, number one pressure rate in the NFL last season. They added another defensive lineman, a guy who really fits their scheme in Savion Jones at the back end of the third round, because the way they kind of operate up front, they have a bunch of these guys in John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen, who just got paid, who are big, long, what we used to call like 3-4 defensive ends, but they don't use them like old school 3-4 defensive ends. They use them as penetrators. They use them as guys who can create havoc on stunts, on slants, who can use that length to spike and really just make life difficult on opposing offensive lines, and then let those guys on the edge, your Nick Bonitos, your guys who run 4.5s, your
Oof.
linebackers blitzing out the second level, let those guys just get free runs to the quarterback. It's a scary way to scheme up a defense. And so that's why I think, given that this was already an awesome defense, this should be not only the best defense in the NFL, this could be like one of the best defenses we've seen in the past 4 or 5 years. This defense is truly loaded. And when you got that, you can make yourself a deep playoff run.
Yeah, coverage combined with the ability to rush and win, not only on the interior part of the defensive front, but you talked about Nick Bonito. That's a guy that could just literally blindfold himself, put his hand on the ground, and somebody could say go, and he's going to run around 80% of the offensive tackles in football. There's only a few guys that give me nightmares as an analyst, and when I watch a guy like Nick Bonito just be able to effortlessly run the hoop, that's crazy. You pair him with somebody on the inside like Zach, there's no shot for some of these offensive lines.
Yeah, I think Nick Bonito single-handedly made the Chiefs draft Josh Simmons this year. Isn't that game? Was it Wanya at left tackle in that game?
Where he just I think it might have been Kingsley and then Wanya.
It was Kingsley. He just ran around him, like just was sprinting around him. That's how good his first step is. Now, the why won't they, I think, is obvious for the Broncos. Not obvious, but like, it's because the top of the AFC is so good. It's because when you go pecking order of quarterbacks in that conference, there is a tier one, and Bo Nix, at least what we saw from as a rookie, could make a big leap forward, but he ain't close to the tier one, right? He may not even be tier two in that conference. And I think that's the biggest thing right now is, what does Bo Nix have for a second act? What's his ceiling at the NFL level? Because he was old coming out. He was a 24-year-old quarterback in the draft. He played 5 years of college football, so experienced, and he's gotten better every stop of the way. But at some point, everyone reaches a plateau. Everyone ends up being their best. And what is his best? Is it good enough to hang with the rest, or are they going to need to be really perfect for this team to make a deep playoff run? All right, the other team
What
here,
we got next?
NFC. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I say they have made deep playoff run. Like this incarnation of the Bucs. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl back in 2020. That was with Tom Brady. That was with a vastly different team. Not a lot of holdovers from that era anymore. But this team, with this division, with this schedule, this is easily the best version of the Bucks team since they won the Super Bowl in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, just the skill players that are going to be taking the field, the health that they're going to have back, with potentially getting Godwin at 100%. Mike Evans, still no real drop off. Baker Mayfield, the fearless leader. And then you bring a guy like Emeka Ibuka into the building, and you have so many options. And last year, obviously, Liam Cohen did a great job, and Tristan Wirfs makes anybody's job easy as an offensive coordinator. But now, with these weapons and having that veteran at quarterback now, in Baker Mayfield. You got to just trust the process that Baker Mayfield's going to make the right decisions. And if Tristan Wirfs can stay healthy, this group isn't going to be outmatched on the edge. And Baker, with some time and some confidence, it's going to be scary again. And like you said, this could be the most talented group we've seen since Tom Brady left.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious in my eyes that it is. And it's a hat tip to Jason Light, how he cobbled it together post Super Bowl run, because that wasn't all in run. I mean, they made cap moves, they made trades to do all they could to make that, that small stretch they had with Tom Brady as good as it could possibly be. And now they've rebounded. And I do think certain positions on this roster, they're amongst the deepest in the entire NFL. Everyone knows about wide receiver. Of course, they're amongst the deepest in the NFL. They go like 5 deep there of guys that could start in different teams around the league. Secondary as well, with their second and third round picks from this year, and Benjamin Morrison, Jacob Parrish, 2 guys I had a lot higher on my board than where they ultimately came off, and defensive line. I think they've reloaded very well along this defensive line, adding Hassan Reddick in free agency, adding Elijah Roberts in the 4th round. I think this second group is going to be a group that's still feared, that can still get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And their first group could be as good, could be a top 5 unit in the NFL. But the one position, the one why won't they, in my eyes, the offensive line, because that is not a thin group. We've talked about this before. But even with just Tristan Wirfs going down, it's Charlie Heck coming in there. Kind of a journeyman, former day 3 guy, brought in. That's not going to get you too excited. That's going to be a guy that you're going to have to scheme around, truthfully, early on this season for new OC Josh Grizzard. So if anyone else goes down, Wirfs already going to miss a couple weeks. If anyone else goes down, it's going to be scary bad. It just is. They just don't have the depth right now to cover up for any of those losses up front.
Hey, I'll say this about the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I don't think it's said enough. Todd Bowles, pretty awesome. Would love to play for that guy. Old school. There's a reason these teams stick together year in, year out. They have the ability to really just maintain their cool all the time. Like you listen to this guy talk at halftime, post-game, pre-game. His heart rate is never up, and I feel like that's the Bucks. I mean, they're in any game. That's why they can go on the road and beat the Lions. That's why I feel like they're a team that could go beat the Eagles at the Link and stuff like that. Doesn't surprise me because they have fearless leaders at the receiver position, at the quarterback position, at the head coach position. I'm excited to watch this group always. I'm just a huge Baker fan.
And the last thing to tie a bow in here for the Bucks, their division's so much easier than everyone else's. Like all the other contenders, Eagles have a tough schedule. Lions have a very difficult schedule. If you're in the NFC North, you have a difficult schedule. I think if you're in the NFC East, you have a difficult schedule. The West, it's not necessarily that you have a difficult schedule, but there's so much parity in that division that it's going to be difficult for anyone to really separate themselves from the pack. Whereas in the South, it's like it's the Bucks, it's the Falcons who are kind of interesting, and then it's 2 teams who are still really trying to fight their way out of a rebuild and who are not ready to compete for the big time just yet in the Panthers and Saints. So they have the easiest go of it of any of the contenders. So because of that, they could get the 1 seed. It would not surprise me whatsoever if that's the case. All right, we're going to continue playing Will They or Won't They? And these are teams to win a playoff game coming up right after this. We've been playing Why Will They or Why Won't They all show long, and now we're getting to teams to win a playoff game. And I picked 2 teams that have playoff aspirations, but it has been a while since they've won a playoff game. New England Patriots have not won since 2018. Crazy to think about, given how, 2002 through 2018 went, but have not won a playoff game since 2018. And the Atlanta Falcons, it's even been longer than that. 2017 was the last time they won a playoff game. So why is this year going to be different for the New England Patriots, Kyle?
Well, for the New England Patriots, they've got a brand new coach, a brand new culture. And I've been in a locker room where you get a brand new coach, he wins coach of the year, and you go on a run, the likes that you've never been on before as a football player. The influx of talent, toughness, and smarts into New England this offseason just really makes me feel comfortable saying that they are going to be in pretty much every football game with a chance to win. And if you get into playoff football, that's where the quarterbacks really come into play. And when you got a guy like Drake May, you can scheme all you want. But at the end of the day, the dude likes to run. He likes to put his shoulder down. There's another quarterback in the AFC that we like to watch play who does sort of a similar thing. That's what we like to call an X factor in the business. Okay, having a guy like Drake May, just a big physical specimen. I love this Pats team. They believe in him, and I'm a huge Mike Vrabel believer and supporter. This group will be ready to roll.
Yeah, you said they have a bunch of new stuff. This is truly just like a new team. It's as close to a new team as I can remember since I started doing this way back in like 2012. They have, given what's on their roster right now, as their depth charts penciled in, 12 new starters from a year ago. 12 new people who were not on their team are now starting for this team. Obviously, a new head coach. And that doesn't even include the quarterback position, where the year 1 to 2 leap at quarterback is often said to be like the biggest leap, where that's almost like a new quarterback in and of itself, going from your rookie year to your second year. So all of those things, you combine that with then one of the 3 easiest schedules in the NFL, at least on paper, with last year's records. And in my eyes, it is still an easy schedule given what they have. All that's pointing to at least making the playoffs in my eyes. I think this is going to be a playoff team this year. It just, they've added so much talent, and they have that guy at quarterback. They have that guy now at head coach. I think they do that. But why they go in a playoff game is because of Drake May. Like, let's just be real. It is because you have a guy who is a real deal playmaker. And I think the thing that gets lost when you see a lot of his highlights is he is so mobile and uses it at such a high, like it's not his first option, it's not his second option, but if you give him a crease, if that is all of a sudden turns into the best option for him on the play, you better watch out. The guy is dynamic as a runner. So all that put together, I do think now with a completely new offensive line from a completely new receiving core, there's a lot of reasons to think that this team could not only be a playoff team, they could realistically challenge the Buffalo Bills for the AFC East crown.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Write it down.
I may have gone crazy there.
Bold print. Okay. Send Mike, blink twice. Like hard blinks if you're in trouble, if you need me to help you. No, seriously.
Bill
This is
Simmons
what
is off
happens
camera right now.
when you romanticize the quarterback position like you and I do. Anything's possible. And if you close your eyes hard enough and think hard enough, you can vision in your mind's eye a guy like Drake May getting a playoff win on the backs of his legs. Okay, the guy's a freak show. And the other team you were talking about, the Atlanta Falcons. And for a lot of the similar reasons that we're talking about that second year jump for Drake May, I have the same confidence in Michael Penix Jr. Not many players in the country who have more experience at the quarterback position than Michael Penix. I think he throws a beautiful ball. And then guys like Drake London, you can see him there on the screen. I talk about the receiver position like basketball teams. You want kind of one of every body type, one of can do anything. You need a Ray Allen shooting in the corner. You need a 6'10" guy that can shoot the elbow jumper, maybe slash and drive. You got the Drake London big body type, Mooney's getting deep down in the third level. But it's Kyle Pitts that is going to be the thing that ties this whole dish together. And I love that Michael Penix Jr. started the training camp media session with, yeah, Pitts is going to get the ball a lot more this year. And he kind of laughed at the media who has been kind of clowning Kyle Pitts for his lack of production. Well, this is where the rubber has to meet the road. It's a contract year, I believe, Mike Renner for Kyle Pitts. And this Falcons offense is going to roll. This is one of those teams that you play with on Madden because there's so many options. The running back, the quarterback can throw it. He's a lefty. Okay, we're going naked left now, baby. We're not going naked right anymore like those other vanilla idiots, the right-handers. We're going the proper way, the southpaw way.
There's a lot to unpack here with the Falcons. And I love that you brought up Kyle Pitts because I think that's at the heart of why I'm so excited about this Falcons team. And it's this knock-on effect of going from Kirk Cousins to Michael Penix. If you watch this Falcons offense and you watch what Zach Robinson does, they were one of the purest stretch zone running teams in the NFL. Outside zone action. What do you have to do off of outside zone action, Kyle? What's the one thing you got to do?
Well, you got to move guys off the ball. That's for sure.
And when you move guys off the ball, you displace linebackers and you get open windows down the field. That's the biggest thing. Kirk Cousins could not attack down the field last year. He could dink and dunk still like the Kirk of old. He could not go off that boot action and then hit the deep post. It just wasn't an option.
They knew it wasn't coming. They knew it wasn't coming. Like, I mean, look, if you've got a statue back there and we're running the ball all game, their defensive coordinator saying, I don't care if he boots. I don't care if Peyton boots left. That's why there's that famous clip of Peyton running to nobody in the corner of the end zone, because people just don't respect that in the NFL. With Kirk, they didn't. With Michael Penix Jr., there's just enough there. You can make those plays happen.
You got to respect it. He has speed. He's not a runner, but he has speed and he has a cannon for an arm. When he came into the game last year, when he came in and ran that offense, his average depth of target was over 2.5 yards deeper than Kirk Cousins. And what does Kyle Pitts do well? That's what, to tie a bow back to that. He runs a 4.4. The guy can fly down the football field. He has clunky feet. He is not your underneath route runner. He's not Jason Witten. He is more of a downfield vertical threat. He is a guy that if he is one-on-one against a linebacker on a deep over, on a deep cross, he's running away from them. They did not have those in the playbook because Kirk Cousins couldn't hit those in the playbook. Well, guess what? Those are back in the playbook, and Kyle Pitts is a dangerous weapon on those. So for all that, like, the offense just works now. Michael Penix doesn't have to be an elite quarterback. Everything else just works when you have a guy who's as aggressive as he is with his kind of arm talent. That's why it made sense for them to. That's why they went ahead and drafted him 8th overall when everyone's like, is he worth that? For this offense, Michael Penix is worth it. So that's why they will. Why they won't, though, it takes one look at this defensive line. Everyone's been talking about the exterior, and they may get more pressure on opposing teams this year. But I don't know if they stop the run still. This defensive interior is still weak. They need Rook Ororo, your DT they drafted in the second round last year, to step his game up, to truly be a player, because he was not a season ago. But if he's not, if he doesn't make a leap, they are not going to be able to stop the run. Because the guys they brought in, James Pierce, Jalen Walker, they can rush the passer. They're 240 pounds. They are not run stoppers. This could be a weak front seven. And they might just get rolled on when you talk about teams like the Philadelphia Eagles coming to town. We talk about teams like the Washington Commanders, who you're going to face in the playoffs. Because again, this is, will they win a playoff game? A lot of the teams they're going to face, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, these teams can run the rock. I don't trust the Falcons to stop the run right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know who likes Michael Penix Jr. is those two rushers that they brought in, because they understand that in order for them to do their job, Michael Penix has to have that lead. So they can pin their ears back and go get their sacks, go get their money. And they also have the benefit of playing on turf, playing indoors. As an offensive lineman, two things I don't want to hear are turf and dome, because those guys get even quicker. And 240 looks like 210 for an offensive tackle or an offensive guard. So let's hope that this offense can hold up their end of the bargain and allow those edge rushers to do what they got to do. Because to your point, if you're getting run on, if you're getting pushed in the whole game, ain't nothing you can do about it but watch, buddy. Go have a beer and just watch your season fall apart.
All right, that's the why will they or why won't they for teams to win a playoff game. In the next segment, we're going to do why will they or why won't they for teams to just make the playoffs. Teams that really haven't made the playoffs of late, why will they, why won't they make the playoffs? Coming up next. All right, we're playing why will they or why won't they? And now we're getting to teams to make the playoffs. Got a couple teams here. One in the Indianapolis Colts, haven't made the playoffs since 2020.
Oh, brother.
Crazy to say, given Chris Ballard's security there at GM. And one in the Seattle Seahawks who, yeah, they made it in 2022, so semi-recently, but they've got above 500 each of the past two seasons, but haven't made the playoffs in either of them. So why will they? Why won't they? Let's start with the Colts, Kyle.
Everybody wants to talk about the quarterback, but I ain't going to do it. I'm going to start with that defensive front. Okay, that defensive side of the ball. They're healthy, they're experienced, they're talented. They've invested on the defensive side of the football, particularly at the line of scrimmage. So if you're going to have trouble offensively, you can kind of bolster that team with having a dominant front four, front seven. Now I'll switch to the offensive side of the ball. If Anthony Richardson did anything this offseason, if Anthony Richardson is healthy this season, we are going to be looking at a completely different Indianapolis Colts team because in the same way we talk about Josh Allen and Drake May and Lamar Jackson being X factors and the things that they can do when the play breaks down, you can literally design an offense around this guy to be dangerous with his legs. And we've all seen the arm talent from Anthony Richardson, but it's the free throws, it's the elbow jumpers, it's the layups. We got to see him hitting those. And with the pieces that they have at the receiver position, you don't need to throw it 60 yards every time, partner. Just flick it out there to one of these little guys on the outside and let him make two guys miss and hit his head on the goalpost, as the old ball coach used to say. This new guy, Tyler Warren, as well, if they can find a way to maximize him in this offense, who are you going to guard? Who are the eyes on for that second level of the defense? And when they do get their eyes to the receiver, there goes Anthony Richardson, Dana 15, slides, first down Colts.
Big if though on the slide. This one was the easiest one. We've been going through all these on the show today. This was by far the easiest one for me to do. Why will they make the playoffs? It's everything surrounding the quarterback. This is, again, take away the quarterback position, running backs, tight ends, offensive line, receiver position. Top 5, top 3, maybe in the NFL situation. This is a loaded roster. I love this receiving core. I think Adonai Mitchell is a star in the making. Everyone knows about Jonathan Taylor. Tyler Warren is the type of tight end who can make an impact day one. That guy is ready to play in the NFL. So there is everything there at your disposal. There is no excuse for your quarterback position. But the why won't they is the quarterback position. It just is. Anthony Richardson, they saw the graphic. They're a third worst completion percentage in the season since 2000, and it's bad. It is beyond bad. The crazy thing is, though, if he just got to okay, like if he just got to not the worst in the NFL, this offense could move because of everything else, because of your running game, because of him as a runner. But at this point in time, I don't know if it's going to change. Sometimes the Tiger does not change his stripes. We have seen guys kind of fix their accuracy. Josh Allen comes to mind. We've seen guys just never fix their accuracy whatsoever. Christian Hackenberg comes to mind. So there's both sides of the coin there. I think with Daniel Jones, you obviously have a little higher floor, but with Daniel Jones, you also have a much lower ceiling. You just kind of know what you're going to get, and I don't think it's going to take this team to the playoffs. So a very easy one to deduce, and it all comes down to that number 4 overall pick from 2023. Now let's get to Seattle Seahawks, who, again, 10-7
Not a real
year,
animal.
9-8 the year
Not
prior.
a real animal, by the way. Seahawks.
An amalgamation
not
of
real
Seattle
animals.
and Hawks.
That's all I got.
That's why they won't, because they're not a real animal.
Okay. You go first,
why
and
will
then
they?
I'll go.
Okay, I'll
so
go a
I
little on
think
the Seahawks.
all right.
You go? You go.
The
Defense.
Seattle Seahawks will go because of their defense. Okay. There's a reason this guy is the head coach in Seattle. There's a reason that Seattle was synonymous with success for a decade. When you and I were growing up, when we were, staying up a little bit too late to watch some of those games from out west, it was the Legion of Boom. They can have that. They can have the dominant front seven there in Seattle, and they're going to get a lot more out of young players on their defensive line that are going to be stepping up. I think about guys like Murphy being absolute mismatches, regardless of who he plays against. Look, the only question mark is Sam Darnold and this offense. And people scratching their heads, still wearing a DK Metcalf jersey or a Geno Smith jersey, begging for the days of the explosive offense. Twice a game, we're going to have one of these highlight plays that goes to DK Metcalf, or we're going to see a fight. I don't know if there's going to be much of any of that offensively. So if they do get to the playoffs, it's on the backs of that defense and that running game. Kenneth Walker, one of the best in the NFL. If they can stay healthy in that running game, I expect the offense to be able to do enough to win some games. But if they can't, and the game plan is Sam Darnold, go back there and throw the football the entirety of the football game, we could be looking at a really, really, really turbulent season for the Seahawks.
Yeah, the why will they is easily their defense. This is a unit that was very good a season ago, should only be getting better with the additions and the fact that Byron Murphy was great for a rookie. DT is a position that you just don't peak that early on. And he was also super young coming out. He was a junior coming out. So this guy has a lot of physical development still left in the tank. He could be like a Jalen Carter, right? He could be that level of an impact player for you in Seattle. If that turns out to be the case, you have a team, a defense that is ready to be at least the best in that division. But I'm right with you. Offensively, I don't know what it's going to look like. You knew with Geno Smith what you were going to get. You know you're going to get one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. You knew if he got pass protection, you'd move the ball offensively. I can't say the same for Sam Darnold. And it's specifically Sam Darnold paired with two wide receivers in Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp that are 4-6 plus type of guys. You don't have speed in this receiving core. And if you're, again, to go back to what I said about the Atlanta Falcons, when you run the stretch zone game, the way Clint Kubiak does, that is the bread and butter of this offense, and you have that play action game off of it, you better attack down the football field. I don't know if they have the speed and the talent to consistently attack down the football field. Losing guys like DK Metcalf in that offense, that's what opened it up for JSN. That's what gave him the space. I don't see MVS. I don't see Marcos Valdes-Scantling being the field opener for guys like Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Look at Cooper Kupp, man. He's like, I'll find a way to get open, dude. It may not be exactly what we need within this offense, and it might not make sense strategically for what we're trying to get accomplished inside of Clint Kubiak's offense. But Cooper Kupp's a football guy. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a football guy. They're going to find ways to be competitive, but it just feels like an incongruent combination of receivers, scheme, quarterback. It's a bit puzzling.
We will see how it plays out. After this, we're going to get to some dark horses. Why will they improve drastically? Why won't they improve drastically? We're going to run through a bunch of names coming up right after this. It's dark horse season, Kyle. Everyone loves a good dark horse. Who's going to come out of nowhere, make some noise, and maybe make the playoffs, or maybe just go 500 when no one thought they were going to go 500. So let's go through some teams who I think are strong candidates for said designation. Start with New York Jets, who obviously in the Aaron Rodgers era, things did not go the way they had hoped, but they've moved on to Justin Fields. Why will this team be drastically improved, or why won't they in 2025?
Well, the reason that this team will be drastically improved is because their investment into their offensive line doesn't look like aging superstars that are on the back nine of their career. It looks like young, budding guys who are ready to play, ready to hold defensive linemen accountable for their sins. And that's going to fit right into what they're going to try to do with Justin Fields. They're going to have the ability to run the football, get that suck, that respect from the second level. And when I talk about the suck at the second level, when doing the running game, you run the ball, you run the ball, you run the ball. The defense starts to inch up. And the moment you feel that they're over their toes, you hit them downtown. And Justin Fields, former baseball player, guy that has home run throws in his repertoire, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see heavy running the football. You're going to see the ability to get the ball down the field to guys like Garrett Wilson. And then obviously on the defensive side of the ball, we're going to see more of what we've known and loved about the New York Jets, just with a different coordinator. It's going to be gangrene all over again. You know what kind of team that Aaron Glenn's going to have on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, why will they, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. It's very obvious just how they built this roster. They're zigging when the rest of the NFL is zagging. And they are building this run-first behemoth of an offensive line with a great running back room and a running quarterback behind it that's just going to play bully ball and play that brand of football and say we're going to win games with our run game and our defense. I think it's a great way to do it when you don't have an elite quarterback. It's a great way to build your team. But the why won't they is obvious also too, because with Justin Fields, it's obviously always been better in theory than in practice. It's never quite worked out to the wins you had hoped. He's never quite taken that next step in his career that everyone's anticipated given his level of talent. Let's get to the Las Vegas Raiders, who are one of my most exciting teams. I cannot wait to watch this team in 2025 for a number of reasons. Why will they be drastically improved, though, this year, Kyle?
Well, it seems like a very long time since we saw Derek Carr wearing the silver and black. And that was really the last time that Raiders fans had an understanding that they had a true QB number one. And with Geno Smith coming to town, they've got that again. They've got a guy who can distribute the football, has arm talent. And at the helm, at the OC position, is a guy that I played for and experienced a ton of success with, Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly is a dude who had a ton of success in the NFL, and then he didn't have a ton of success. He had to go back through the ranks of college football, and off the heels of a national championship, here he is back at it again with seemingly the best young running back in football, the best young tight end, maybe the best tight end in football, and Brock Bowers paired across from Michael Mayer. You've got a receiver in Myers who does not drop the football. And Pete Carroll's energy, his charisma, his experience is going to lift that entire football team up. I think we see a new version of the Las Vegas Raiders, no doubt. And this is a team that fully expects to win.
Yeah, why will they, to me, revolves completely around Pete Carroll. They were dysfunctional last year. Pete Carroll doesn't do dysfunction. He had so many personalities, so many guys who outside of Seattle had issues in their private lives or issues and whatnot in the media sphere. We never heard about any of it with Pete Carroll was the head coach. It never affected that locker room. So he does not do dysfunction. This team will be much more of a cohesive unit. They have a much better quarterback in Geno Smith. So all that, like, I don't see a world in where they don't. The why won't they? It's their secondary. It stinks. But why will they? It's obvious. This team should be much, much better than last season. A couple more teams here. New York Giants. Obviously, the Joe Shane, Brian Dable era, this is it for them. They're kind of last hurrah. Either we're correct about the why will they, or the why won't they sinks them and they won't be here next year.
You know, when they take raw materials out of like some sort of mine and then they put it in a furnace and then you get the boiled down version of whatever the hell you put in there and it's, called refinement, I believe. Well, that's what every offensive line is going to go through playing against this New York Giants defensive front. Okay, we're going to find out what every single one of these offensive lines is made of, and I don't care what color they're wearing. I don't care if they're wearing green and white. The damn Philadelphia Eagles roll to town. We're going to find out what they're really made of because they have a murderer's row of pass rushers on this unit. And it's anchored by that big fella in the middle, Dexter Lawrence, who's every bit as good of a pass rusher as guys like Kayvon Thibodeau. And, you think about Abdul Carter putting on the helmet for the G-Men. This is going to be a ton of fun to watch. That will be the unit that propels them to success this season.
Yeah, and to add to that, I agree with everything you said. I think Malik Neighbors is one-man offense. I think he is going to join the echelon of wide receivers that are names like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, is the LSU guys. But he's going to join that echelon, in my opinion, this season. That's what I saw from him as a rookie. That's just what I've seen from him in training camp. He's that type of freakish athlete. So that is a one-man offense with a quarterback who, for all Russell Wilson's picadillos, if you have one guy, he can feed him. He is accurate to one guy on the outside of the football field and can hit him down the football field. So from all respects, I think it's going to be better. But why won't they? They're in the NFC East. They're still the fourth best team in that division. They could improve a lot and lose 6 games in that division. All right, real quick, last one. Carolina Panthers. Less than a minute here. Why will they be better, or why won't they be better this upcoming season?
Bryce Young has new homies, T-Mac, and I'm not supposed to say T-Mac, but T-Mac's in town. Bryce Young gets another year of experience out of Leggett. And look, they added some defensive playmakers on this group. Overall, the Carolina Panthers are a better football team. Let's just hope that we don't see Bryce Young get to cruising altitude. We got to see him continue to work towards the stars.
Yeah, I think it's Bryce Young with weapons. That's the reason why they will. Why they won't is because, well, Bryce Young, we've seen it fall off before. It can go bad when you are a 5'10" quarterback playing in the NFL. All right, there you have it. There's the why will they, why won't they for a bunch of teams around the NFL. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You could tune in to Pushing the Pile, 9:30 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Until next time.